Hang in there, Cassie. Lieutenant Lord, call sickbay and get the doctor up here right now. I can't. Why not? The ship's entire system has been knocked offline. Even the emergency backup systems, it's all offline. We don't have time for this. Get it back online. You rise quickly and dash over to the elevator, slamming your hand into the call button. I'm going to take Cassie down to the sickbay. You can... Aside from your voice, the whole room remains totally silent. Most conspicuously absent, though, is the whirring of the elevator that would take you directly to the sickbay. You rapidly press the call button in frustration. Idiot, what part of offline do you not understand? Wait, so we're stuck on the bridge? Queen's not going anywhere until at least the backup systems are online, but that can't be done from the bridge. What do you mean? How do we get them back online? It's an emergency failsafe. If there's a critical failure at the central computer and it can't function properly, then the entire ship will be shut down. Then it enters a lockdown mode until it can be rebooted. All areas are sealed in case the shutdown is the result of enemy action. The main computer in engineering needs to be physically rebooted to restore any sort of access. Of course, since this is a security system, you should know all of this. You grit your teeth to stop yourself snapping back at Vanessa in the heat of the moment. All thought of process and procedure had left you completely. All you'd been thinking about was getting Cassie to sickbay. Placing your head in your hand, you pinched the bridge of your nose and tried to focus. That's right. But isn't the order to reboot the central computer given from the bridge in that situation? Why did you say we can't? 2 reasons. First of all, this lockdown shouldn't affect backup systems. But for some reason, everything seems like it's offline, which means there's no internal communication system right now. Okay. So we just gotta wait for maintenance to do their thing? Secondly, even if we did have the internal communication system, access to the central computer requires input codes which are known only by the captain. Or in the event the captain is incapacitated, the second in command. Vanessa turns to look at Cassandra, who shifts slightly as she continues to talk. You head back to Cassie, kneeling beside her and placing her in the recovery position. Feeling the cold steel of the floor as you turn Cassie over, you take off your uniform jacket and lay it over her. Which currently would be Lieutenant Commander Quinn. Meaning that right now, both the people who know the necessary information to get the ship back up and running are out of action. Hold on a minute, wait. Is there a chance that the code we need is the password Cassie uses for everything? There's gotta be some way around all this. Aren't you listening? This isn't supposed to happen. We should at least have the backup systems in place. Without them, there's nothing we can do except sit around and wait for the air to run out. What about the O'Brien? Can you contact them for support? Everything is offline. What part of this are you not getting? As you kneel over Cassie, your mind races through what Vanessa has just told you. You know that she's right, and that all the ship's emergency action plans revolve around the backup systems being operational, and without them online, there's next to nothing that can be done within the ship. Your mind catches on that point for a moment, and you can't help but wonder whether whoever wrote that plan was optimistic enough that they couldn't see a situation where the backups failed. Yeah, shouldn't we have backups to our backups? What the heck? Or whether they were so pessimistic they felt if those systems are out of commission, there was no real hope for the crew either. Pushing that thought out of your head, you desperately try to figure out a way to get Cassie to the sickbay. There's gotta be something you know about the ship that would help in all your time you've spent working as a security officer. There's gotta be something that you've picked up that would... Oh, could we use, the vents? That's it! In the crew quarters, the panels by the bunks can be removed and replaced. People use that space in the structure to hide their contraband. What are you talking about? The ship's maintenance crawlways are accessed in the same way, if I'm right. You head back over to the elevator, but this time, instead of trying to call them, you begin to run your hands over the seams in the wall panels on either side. Eventually, you notice a gap a few inches in length. Normally, maintenance would have a special tool to access this, but you can do the same thing with... I know I've got it on me somewhere. Where is it? Keycard would probably work. Taking your ID card out of your pocket, you slide it into the gap in the seam until it meets some resistance when it's about halfway in. You slide it up and down a few times until you feel it stick on something, at which point you push harder. Suddenly, you hear the sound of multiple catches disengaging, and the panel falls towards you. Taking the wall panel in both hands, you place it to the side of where it used to be attached. Now, instead of solid wall, you can just about make out an absence large enough for someone to fit inside, with a series of rungs heading downwards into a darkness which opens up once they pass by where the elevator currently sits. How did you know how to do this? This is one of the first tricks you learn as a security officer. Ship crews get very creative with where they stash things. With these panels, it makes sense that the maintenance crawlways are accessed in a similar way. Well, great. Now you can crawl around the walls in the dark. Very helpful. You grit your teeth and breathe. You hadn't talked to Vanessa much since you first met, but you are now beginning to understand why she always ate alone in the mess hall. If I can get in up here, it means that I can get out down in the central hub. From there, I can see if I can get the emergency input codes from the captain and make contact with the chief in engineering. Do you really think you can solve this by clambering around inside the walls? Even if you can make it to the central hub, the rest of the ship will... Lieutenant Lord, would you... shut up, or please keep your opinions to yourself. We'll be more professional about this. Thank you, Lieutenant Lord. You snap back, barely suppressing your anger at her constant pessimism. But right now, I don't see many other options except for this one. And for all we know, we're the only people on the entire ship who might be able to do something. I'm not about to sit around and let everyone down. Not this time. So I'm going to leave you here to look after Lieutenant Commander Quinn, unless you have anything you want to try that you think might help. Vanessa stares at you for a moment, as if weighing up what the best put down for the current situation is. Instead, she heads back to her station and starts flicking switches and pressing buttons on her control panel. Alright, you do that. I'll try to get the internal communication system working. Since the backups should work in a situation like this, maybe there's a way to get them back online. Get moving, or are you going to stand around and gawk whilst I get everything done myself? You inadvertently sigh loudly as you turn around and reach out into the crawl space, grabbing a rung and then placing your foot on one lower down. If I can get things back online with the chief and the captain's help, just look after Lieutenant Commander Quinn until then, alright? Vanessa turns away from you, continuing to adjust the inputs on the communication system. Yeah, sure. With that, you lower yourself into the darkness, taking it one rung at a time. Once you're past the stationary elevator, you can feel the space you're in open up around you. Carrying on downwards, you reach behind you every so often to see if you can feel the catch system that would keep an access panel attached. After a few attempts to find it, your fingers eventually brush over a catch, and with some coercion, you manage to get it to release, causing the whole panel to fall off the wall behind you and clatter onto the floor of the central hub. As you step out of the crawlway, a loud banging starts from nearby. You immediately reorient yourself to face the room, placing your hand on your electroshock weapon just in case. As you scan the room in the dim light, the banging continues, and you realize it's not coming from anywhere in the central hub, but one of the elevators. With your hand still hovering over your weapon, you slowly move towards the noise, trying to make as little sound as possible, hoping that whatever is making it doesn't know you're there. Despite the darkness, you can see that the elevator doors are open slightly, with an inch or so gap between the two doors. As you angle yourself to try and see what's inside, your question is answered. Hey, who's out there? Whoever you are, help me get these stupid doors open. The whole thing's jammed. You pause for a moment. You haven't seen Hanson since the other day outside your quarters. Hey, you out there, I heard you. Get over and help me get these doors open. Hey, what are you waiting around for? As Hanson continues to call out, you size up the situation. With the darkness of the room, you could easily come and go without him being able to tell that it's you. On top of that, it's unlikely he'd be able to force open the elevator doors on his own. Hey, come on, this isn't funny! Who's out there? Stop jerking me around! It's petty, but part of you almost relishes the idea of Hanson seeing how it feels to be trapped and unable to do anything. Haru, if you're messing with me, I'll kick your ass! Still, he's a member of the crew, and as a security officer, it's your role to keep them all safe, regardless of how much of a dick they might be. You take a deep breath and... I help him open the doors. 2 of us on this mission is better than 1, even if he is a jerk. Hold it for a second before releasing one long, constant sigh. Hey, I heard you! I know you're there! Get me out! All right, Ensign, I'll take the door on the right, you take the door on the left. On the count of 3, we pull. Great, everyone on board, and it's the Cowlick Coward. Figured you'd stop by here, find a nice little space to crawl up and hide. Help me out so we can trade places, you can ride out until the action's over. You immediately begin to regret your decision. Cruz, do you want to get out of there or not? Yeah, come on. All right, here we go. 1, 2, 3. The two of you both heave against the elevator's doors, which shift slightly. As you continue to pull against it, a pain shoots up through your side from where Hansen landed a blow the other day. Ugh. What's the matter with you? It's nothing. Come on, again. You grit your teeth as you both make another attempt to move the doors. They slide open a little bit further, but still not quite enough for Hansen to get his whole body out. I thought for a second that maybe after that fight you put up the other day you were stronger than I gave you credit for. Looks like I was wrong. Oh yeah, is that right funny that you're just as weak as I remember you being? A silence hangs between the two of you for a moment, and through the darkness you can't tell whether Hansen is smirking or sneering. Anyway, come on, one more time. Alright, here we go. 1, 2, 3. It takes the two of you a few attempts, but finally you manage to push the doors open, to the point where Hansen can make his way through the gap between the two of them. Free of the elevator, Hansen dusts himself down and looks around whilst adjusting his jacket. So what the hell's going on? What's happened to the ship? Why has everything stopped working? There should be backups or something, right? You pause for a moment, despite having been on the bridge when everything went wrong. You probably have as much of an idea as Hansen would. Honestly, we've got no idea. I was on the bridge when it all happened. We made contact with the O'Brien. There was this flash. Then Commander Quinn had been knocked out. All the systems are offline, even the backups. I managed to get off the bridge using the maintenance crawlway. Now we're trying to figure out a way to reboot the computer to get everything back online. Just great. I knew this ship was a piece of junk the moment I stepped on board. You said you guys had a plan to get things up and running, yeah? Yeah, kinda. Great, you can handle that. I'm gonna go check on the crew. Have you seen Haru? No, I haven't run into them. Okay, then I'll try the quarters. With that, Hansen heads into the darkness towards the foreside thoroughfare. He stops briefly, briefly turning to face you. Lieutenants. Thanks, or whatever. The pilot quickly turns on his heels and disappears into the darkness. Don't mention it. Okay, so we need to get to the captain's quarters. Quarter 2. Okay, captain's quarters. Standing in front of the door to the Captain Bartomeu's quarters, you instinctively straighten up, sticking your chest out and your shoulders back. You know that your access card doesn't have the encoded permission to allow you to access the captain's quarters, and even if it did, the terminal to the side of the door is as lifeless as the rest of the ship. Instead, you bang forcefully on the captain's door and shout, "Captain Bartomeu, it's Lieutenant Craft! There's been a system failure and Commander Quinn is incapacitated. We need you to give the emergency input codes to restart the ship's central computer." After waiting for a few moments, you press your ear up against the door, seeing if you can hear any signs of life. From experience, you know that the crew quarters doors aren't as substantial as some of the other doors on the ship. It's not uncommon to know the exact schedules of other crew members based on sound alone. "Captain, it's an emergency!" You wait a little while longer, but still don't hear anything. Damn it. Slamming your fist on the captain's door in frustration, you turn back. You have to figure something else out. Okay. Okay, well, how about this? If I go to... Can I go to... Go back to the thoroughfare. Can I access my quarters? Probably not. I guess my quarters are the one place on this entire ship I can guarantee there's nothing helpful for this situation in. I can draw well and rest later. Okay, it's fine. We go to the thoroughfare. What about the mess? Or let's at least check on the fire control. Dylan's always there, so at least we can check on him. Like everywhere else on the ship so far, you're met with an unresponsive terminal and a shut door. You know not to expect much, but you try anyway, knocking on the door and calling out. Hey, Gunner D's! Can you hear me? Wait for a response, but don't feel particularly worried when one doesn't come. Knowing Dylan, he's probably not realized anything has happened. I don't think he'd be much help even if he could hear me. At least someone's probably having a good time during all of this. Okay, let's go to the mess hall. I'd kill for coffee right now, but I don't think there's anything in there that'll be helpful. Okay, well I thought maybe like a knife or something, you know? How's the hangar looking? The double-sized doors that make up the entrance to the hangar remain steadfastly closed despite your best efforts. Although the terminal to their side is dead, just like all the others, you'd attempted to open the double doors through the brute force. Although the terminal to their side is dead, just like all the others you'd attempted to open, the double doors through brute force, since the hangar seemed like your best bet to access some equipment. They had, however, remained inert against your efforts to pry them open using your own strength. Unsurprising, but frustrating. Even if I managed to get these doors open, there'd be another set waiting for me at the bottom of the staircase. And this would be way harder in low gravity. You pause for a moment thinking, but you can't think of a way around it. Let's try somewhere else. Okay. Back to the hub. Can I use this? This access tunnel will take me up to the bridge. No, I don't need to go to the bridge. Let's go to the aft thoroughfare. As you leave the central hub and enter the long corridor that comprises the aft thoroughfare, the first thing that you notice is the sound of your steps on the metal flooring ringing out and echoing away down the corridor. Normally, the vibrations from the engines would dull this noise, and it would be barely perceptible over their low and steady rumble. You'd got to the point where you didn't even notice the constant noise down this end of the ship, but now that the corridor is silent, its absence hits you. Okay, well, let's see. We got a door here. I should be able to find the chief in engineering. If anyone can figure this out, it'll be her. Can we use the door? The end of the aft thoroughfare, where the corridor would normally transition from corridor into the engineering department, instead you're met with a substantial blast door with the word engineering stenciled onto it. You run your hand over the surface before rapping on it with your knuckles. Rather than the low ring, which would indicate it being relatively thin, this door returns a higher pitched noise, indicating that it's significantly thicker than normal. Unlike the rest of the doors on the ship, which are designed as entrances and exits, you can tell that this one exists more to block one section off from another. You instantly dismiss any thoughts of forcing it open. It's likely that even the contents of the armory couldn't shift it. After a minute or two of fruitlessly inspecting it, you shrug it to yourself. The only thing you can do right now is hope that the chief is nearby. Hey, Chief! You pound on the door with your fist, hoping that the sound makes its way through. Chief, can you hear me? You continue to pound on the door and yell, stopping every so often to hear if there's any kind of response. Chief, I'm out here! Chief, hey! After a few minutes worth of attempting to make contact, you stop and flex the fingers on your right hand, cracking your knuckles to try and dismiss the discomfort. Given the size of the engineering department, you begin to think about how close the chief would need to be to even hear you and the odds of that happening. Before you can resume your attempts, though, you hear a dull, repetitive thudding coming from the other side. Is that Morse code? Chief, can you hear me? I'm out here! You call, pressing your ear up to the blast door to see if you can hear an answer. Instead, you just hear the same dull, repetitive thudding. At first, it seems random and erratic, but the longer you listen, you begin to realize there's a pattern. That's great, but what does it mean? In defeat, you slam your fist against the door one more time. Chief, I don't know if you can hear me, but I'll try and find a way to get you in there with you. At least I know someone's in there. There's gotta be some way I can get in touch with them. Send them a signal. Maybe there's something I haven't thought of yet. An emergency communication system? Something that's not tied to the ship? Think! Okay, do I have... Oh, no. Do I have... info? I need... okay, I want to get that sound again so I can, like, write it down properly. That way I can decode it later if I need to. Because I don't know this game's puzzle, like, system. Is this the sort of game where it's gonna, like, give me, like, oh, here's your code, here's your deciphering, and then the character in-game figures it out, or do I need to figure it out? If I need to figure it out, then I need to know what it is. Sorry, I'm opening a new packet of pens I bought the other day. Okay. Okay, that's good. Alright, let's see, can we get this again? No, the chief's in there at least. I have to find someone to get in touch with her. Talk. There's no one here, okay. Alright, well, I guess I can't write that down. Hopefully it... No. Let's see, can I get into engineer, or the armory? Swipe your keycard through the card reader, set into the terminal by the armory's door, and there's absolutely no response. Looking at the terminal, you can see there's no indication that it's working at all. Figures that with everything shut down, this wouldn't work. No sense wasting time around here anyway. I need to find some way to get in touch with the chief. Okay, let's move. Where else could we possibly go? And obviously we can't get up to sick bay since that requires an elevator. Is there anywhere else that there's like panels we could take advantage of? Obviously in our room. Oh, hold on. Sorry, that looks like a panel I could maybe manipulate. Well, okay, hold on. Let's go back up to the bridge. If that knocking is some sort of code, maybe it's a code that like the leadership here in the like the command structure like uses, and Vanessa might be able to decode it for us. What? So do you have any luck with getting anything running up here? No, but I have an idea of something that might help. Oh yeah? What? If you got out of my way and did something useful somewhere else. Okay, understood. Jeez. Let's go around here. Captain's chair. What a terrible timing for Captain Bartolomew's to fall sick. Or would what happened to Cassie have happened to her instead? Is there any way we can use it? You turn your access card over in your hands idly for a moment, and when you notice Vanessa isn't looking, you swipe it through the card reader on the control panel. You aren't entirely sure what you're expecting, but nothing happens regardless. Navigation, automated combat system, security measures, everything can normally be run from the bridge right now, though it's all just useless collection of metal and plastic. Better find a way to get it back up and running soon. What if we look outside? Looking out into space always seemed dull, but being here, adrift and helpless, surrounded by its silence, the scope is really setting in. Probably best not to think too hard about it. Okay. The elevators are out of action right now. Hanson and I managed to force the doors open, but I shouldn't go inside knowing how these things work. I hope the doors would shut on me once I got inside or something. Okay. Let's go back to the Foresight thoroughfare. Quarter 2. I don't reckon we could get into Cassandra's quarters. You pause outside of Cassie's room, wondering if there's any chance that she may have left a copy of the input codes in there. You don't dwell on this thought, long as a quick inspection of the terminal next to the door shows it's out of action just like all the others. Okay, let's look. Like, is any features in this room? No. And in terms of items, I don't have much right now. Okay, this is quite the puzzle. It's gotta be something aft then, right? There's nothing in there. Of course, engineering has been shut off like everywhere else. What that bang, though? I feel like it was trying to say something. Chief's in there. Okay, this is... There's only so many things that can be interacted with. I don't reckon I can get to sickbay. The letters are out of action. I'll have to get things back up running before I can get Cassie to sickbay. Like no loose panels. Let me look at the map. Let me go back to my quarters zone. Is there absolutely nothing I can do or interact with here? And there's the other doors. Where's Hansen anyway? True. I don't know what Haru's duties were today or where they'd be. Hopefully they went to the hangar early to get ready for the training exercises. And to give Dalton some company at least. Poor kid, knowing Dalton, he's probably freaking out in the hangar right now. Wonder if Chief's taught him anything helpful about situations like this. Even if Dylan's shift finished between when I last saw him and when the power went out, he probably would have stuck around in the fire control. Like, I feel like I should be able to interact with that. With this panel here. Even if I did get in there, it's all mechanically welded anyway. Or vented anyway. A bad place to be without power. Those doors are probably just as hard to move as all the others. They'll know what to do if I got in. Take a lot more than brute force to get in there right now. You can normally hear noise from the engines, even all the way up here. Once you get used to it, you stop hearing it, but now it's gone. Now it's gone, the sound feels louder somehow. There are maintenance crawlways like this all over the ship. I was lucky that this one was so easy to access. I wouldn't have tried to find any of the others in the dark, and without any guidance. Can't hear anything from down that way. How eerie. The armory. I don't think there's going to be anything in there that will help me out. Even though the ship is locked down, I'm not sure trying to blow them open would be a good idea. Already looked at everything here. Cassie's quarters. Chief's quarters. That bang from earlier must have been her. I feel like she was trying to say something. Maybe, what if I do the same lock? Oh, okay. I bet the captain probably can't share the codes to just any random person who asks. Because, you know, what if we were bored or something? She gave the codes to the enemy. But if we do the coded knock, maybe that's how we can do this. Captain. You're not expecting much, but it's always worth giving something a try, especially in situations like this. Captain! You bang loudly on the door a few more times. Captain! You wait a little while longer, but still don't hear any signs of life from the captain's quarters. What's she even doing in there? I know the doctor's assigned her to bed rest, but how ill is she? Okay. Well, how do I actually execute that idea? Right now I couldn't get in there even if I wanted to. Okay, Vanessa's quarters. Hopefully she can figure something out on the bridge if I can't get those codes. Dr. Rosarium's quarters. I bet he's completely unfazed by all this. Like, I still feel like... Like, I think I need to use the obviously coded knock from the chief on the captain's door. But I don't know how I can actually tell the game that that's what I want to do. Okay, gotta find some way to get in touch with her. The knocks, man. Electric shotgun, it uses non-lethal rounds, deliver 50,000 volts to the target. This is a key card. This is tough. The airlock? Where's that? Oh, the airlock! I forgot I could reach that from here. As you enter the airlock hatch door... As you enter, the airlock hatch door looms large in the darkness. A shiver runs through you, and you rub your forearms. It wasn't something you noticed until now, but as you feel the goosebumps that cover your skin, you realize that the ship's temperature has now dropped noticeably. I've got to find a way to get things up and running again. Let's go around. Emergency space suits for use in the event of ship depressurization failure with the life support systems, or if the crew has to abandon the ship. I hope I can get this solved without needing the extra air supply. Wait, I've just changed the batteries on these to make sure the radios would work in an emergency. I wonder if any of the other radios on board will pick up the signal. I bet that's what the chief was trying to tell me. Of course she'd come up with a plan like this before anyone else. Now let's see if I can reach her. Okay. You grab the handle on the suit's container and twist. The metal in your hand is noticeably colder to the touch than it was the last time you were here. Once the lock is undone, you open the door and, bracing the suit with your left hand, grab the radio with your right. As you disconnect the radio unit from the breast panel, the spiraling plastic cord that connects it to the suit comes with it. Turning the radio in your hand, you find where the cord connects and unscrew the attachment point, allowing the cable to spring back towards the suit. You quickly extend the telescoping antenna and flick the power switch, which causes a sound of whining static to fill the previously silent room. You slowly rotate the tuning dial, working your way through the frequencies until a familiar voice comes out from the tiny speaker. An emergency broadcast from Chief Engineer Mackenzie Cathays on the JFS Gun-Dog to any JFS Gun-Dog crew members or any JCF ships nearby. The Gun-Dog has suffered a complete systems failure and assistance is needed to get them back online. I repeat, this is an emergency broadcast from the Chief Engineer Mackenzie Cathays on the JFS Gun-Dog to any JFS Gun-Dog crew members or any JCF ships nearby. The Gun-Dog has suffered a complete systems failure and assistance is needed to get them back online. Chief, this is Lieutenant Kraft, reading you loud and clear. I've managed to get an emergency radio from one of the suits in the airlock. I'm able to get around the thoroughfares and to the bridge, but I can't get anywhere else. Take you long enough. What the hell's everyone been doing this whole time? You're just about to push the button to send your response, but the chief cuts in. Anyway, you're in touch now. That's what counts. You said you could get to the bridge, is that right? That's right. Then get back up there and get the captain to give me the input codes to access the main computer so that I can get the ship running again. Slight complication, Chief. The captain's taken sick. She's not on the bridge. Classic Bartimeus. Then get back up there and get Lieutenant Commander Quinn to give me the input codes. She's out of commission too. She collapsed at the same time the ship's power went out. You release your thumb allowing the chief to broadcast, but where you expected a swiftly delivered alternative, instead you get is radio silent. Static. Chief? Nothing's ever easy, huh, Lieutenant? Who's currently on the bridge then? That'd be Lieutenant Lord. Well, she's the commanding officer on board right now. I guess you're going to want to get up there. I've got an idea, but it's not something I can authorize. You grip on the radio, tightens as a sense of apprehension grows within you. You don't know what the chief has in mind, but if it requires the authority of the ship's senior officer, you know that it's got to be something dangerous. Realizing you've been holding your breath since the chief's last message, you breathe out and push the button on the radio's side to send your message. Copy that, Chief. Heading up there now. Radio in hand, you quickly make your way back from the airlock into the central hub, and then head straight for the maintenance crawlway. It only takes you a moment of groping around in the darkness to find a ladder rung before you're on your way back up to the ridge. With no more time to waste, you quickly head back to the crawlway. It only takes you a moment of groping around in the darkness to find a ladder. Anyways, as you climb, each rung that you grip is cold to the touch, and the air that you breathe has a brisk chill to it. You know what this means, but for the time being, decide to push that thought out of your head. You've got other things to focus on. The climb up seems a lot shorter than your original climb down, and you soon emerge back on the bridge. Vanessa swivels in her chair and paces over to you.
So, did you get in touch with anyone?
Kind of. You bring the radio up to your face so that the microphone is level with your mouth and press the push-to-talk button with your thumb. Chief, I'm back on the bridge with Lieutenant Lord. Releasing the button, you walk past Vanessa, handing the radio over to her before heading towards Cassie. Vanessa looks from you to the radio with mild bewilderment before the Chief's voice sounds from the speaker.
Lieutenant Lord, this is Chief Engineer Cathays. Do you read?
As you kneel down by Cassie to check her pulse and temperature, as well as doing your best to tuck your jacket around her, the way the Chief addresses Vanessa catches your attention. You wonder the Chief being that deferential towards anyone, even the captain.
I hear you, Chief. Captain Bartimeus, the commanding, and Commander Quinn are both incapacitated, so I'm in command of the Gun-Dog until such time as they can return to duty, understood?
You frown slightly hearing Vanessa assert her position over the Chief like that. Although she is the ranking officer in this situation, you'd not heard anyone on board pull rank in that way, especially on the Chief, who you were under the impression enjoyed the respect of everyone on board, including Hansen and Haru.
Yes, ma'am. Good. Now, have you got a plan, Chief Cathays? Whereas Lieutenant Kraft brought me this radio so we can have a chat about how nothing's working on your end either.
As you stand and turn to face Vanessa, you catch the last few moments of a distasteful look she'd been making at you whilst your back was turned, and do your best to bite your tongue.
Yes, ma'am. Lieutenant Kraft has explained to me that both the captain and Commander Quinn are out of action. Somewhere neither of them will be able to give me the input codes required to reactivate the central computer. We know that, Cathays. What's the solution? The only hope we've got right now is that the captain has copies of the documents that contain the access codes in her quarters. If someone can get in there, then they can get the codes and tell them to me, letting me reactivate the ship's systems. If we'd been able to get into the captain's quarters, we'd have done that already. The whole ship's in lockdown, and there's no way to get in there.
You notice the slightest pause before the Chief responds. You could be projecting, but you get the impression that she's just as fed up as you are.
Not quite, ma'am. Although all the terminals and most of the hardware on the ship is dependent on the central computer, we've got a tool that we use when something needs to be disconnected from the system. We use it for maintenance or debugging, the PST or Portable Subterminal. It's effectively a standalone power pack with a microcomputer built in that provides enough power to activate the hardware attached to a terminal. It'll let us get into the captain's quarters, and then from there we can get the codes to start the computer back up. So where is this PST? It's in the hangar.
We can't get in there either.
We can't get in the hangar either. I know you're stuck in engineering, Cathays, but the story's the same for the entire ship.
Another silence follows. Longer this time. Well, we can get to the airlock. And the airlock can get us into space. And the hangar is attached to space.
That's true if you're trying to get to the hangar from inside the ship, ma'am. But the Gun-Dog has two entrances that can be activated entirely manually. The main onboarding airlock and the hangar crew airlock. If someone left the ship via the onboarding airlock, they could make their way to the crew airlock for the hangar and re-enter there. Then they could get the PST and make their way through the ship as normal. I see. Correct me if I'm wrong, Chief Engineer Cathays, but aren't yourself and Cadet Grange the only crew on board qualified for extravehicular activity in space? And you're currently stuck in engineering whilst we can't get in contact with Cadet Grange to just bring us the PST?
Yes, ma'am. You begin to feel a knot in your gut, and internally curse at Dalton for not having picked up enough of the Chief's know-how to have found an emergency radio of his own.
And policy dictates that all EVA needs to be commanded by an operations officer?
The knot in your stomach tightens as you take a deep breath in. Vanessa's eyes are now locked on you.
Yes, ma'am.
The slightest hint of a smile forms on Vanessa's face.
Well, Lieutenant, it looks like you're going for a walk.
You'd seen this coming as soon as the chief had begun outlining the plan. But you'd been hoping that there'd be some extra part that hadn't been revealed yet. Something that would allow you to stay on board. Faced with Vanessa's directness, the knot in your stomach tightens further. A sense of nausea rising from your guts. I'll do it. I know how to work a spacesuit. Some people took well to spacewalks. Some even enjoyed them, so much they'd take on careers in colony construction and repair, where they'd spend more time in the vacuum of space than they did inside the colony or on ships. You were not one of those people. You'd only ever left the confines of a ship or colony a few times in your life, and almost all of those had been evacuation drills that you'd been through in school or during citizenry courses. On every occasion that you could remember, you'd reacted badly, but managed to keep it to yourself. Something like being out in the void, an attachment clip or handrail away from drifting off into the endless nothingness of space, had always filled you with dread. The knowledge that you were a slip away from disappearing forever, irretrievable and helpless. But despite all that, you knew full well from Vanessa's discussion with the chief that there was not going to be any way around doing this. And right now, you were this ship's, Cassie's, only hope. As much as you hated the thought of it, you pushed back against the fear that had been rising up inside you. Taking a deep breath, you resigned yourself to what you had to do. Fine, I'll do it. The chief can walk me through everything that I need to know on my way over to the airlock.
The dashing security officer diving headfirst into danger. Isn't he great, Lieutenant Commander Quinn? So selfless.
Vanessa rolls her eyes, covering her mouth with the back of her hand and putting on a mocking tone.
Oh, my hero, so brave, going into space to save us. Only you can.
You snatch the radio off Vanessa and turn your back to her, heading towards the maintenance crawlway. At this point, you've had just about all you can take of her, so the sooner the situation's resolved, you decide the sooner you can go back to avoiding her.
Oh, quit making a big deal of this with all your huffing and puffing, Lieutenant Craft. From what I've heard, hanging out in space is something of a pastime of yours.
Ooh. With that comment, you feel your hearts dropped out of your chest. You quickly spin back to face Vanessa.
Lieutenant?
Reining in the flash of anger you just felt, you silently shake your head as you turn back around and grab a hold of the first rung of the crawlway's ladder. Chief, I'm on my way to the airlock now. Walk me through what I need to know.
Wait!
With one hand still on the ladder's rung, you pause and turn around. Yes, Lieutenant Lord? You just had managed to ask through gritted teeth.
Don't you think you're forgetting something?
Doing your best to suppress the urge to scream that you can feel building inside your chest, you pause for a moment and stare at Lieutenant Lord, trying to puzzle out what kind of mind game she's playing. Lieutenant Lord, if there's... Before you've finished, Vanessa rolls her eyes and turns on her heels, walking back over to Cassandra and squatting down. You almost yell out when Vanessa lays her hand on Cassie's hip, but you stop when you see her withdraw a keycard from Cassie's skirt pocket. Holding it between her thumb and forefinger with a flourish, she waves it at you as she stands up and walks back over to you. Right, she's got higher clearance than me, so if I have her keycard, I can get through more doors.
The central computer can only be accessed by the captain or members of operations. Good luck getting in there without this.
Vanessa casually tosses you the card, which you grab out of the air. You got Cassandra's keycard. You turn the card over in your hand a few times before pocketing it. But the chief said that the PST used its battery power to open.
I can see what you and her seeing each other. As if hooking a battery up to a door would get you around the ship's security systems, you're still going to need to have the right authority levels to get through. Honestly.
At this point, your jaw is clenched so hard, it feels like your teeth may crack at any second. But with the cold chill of the ladder rung reminding you just how dire the situation is getting, you turn back around. Thank you, Lieutenant. You just about manage. You still there, Chief? I'm heading to the airlock now.
Have you got the radio coming through the helmet's speakers, Lieutenants?
The Chief's voice fills your helmet. The sound quality is somehow worse than the speaker on the main radio unit itself. Loud and clear, Chief. You respond, securing the radio onto the suit's breast panel.
You got the emergency suit on and sealed?
Yeah, currently breathing in the suit's oxygen supply. What now?
Do you see the access panel next to the internal airlock hatch?
The spacesuit's helmet is attached to the rest of the suit in a fixed position, so although you turn your head to check, all you can see is the helmet's interior. You turn your whole body in an exaggerated motion to look for the emergency access panel, and spot it on the other side of the hatch. I see it, Chief. I'm heading over now.
Alright, you'll need to remove the panel in some way that you did in the same way you did the one on the bridge. Once you've got it off, you'll see a large handle. Cranking that lever operates the manual override that will open the hatch to the airlock.
Understood. Although you'd had to learn to operate the airlock manually in basic training, you didn't feel that now was the time to dismiss the Chief and act like a know-it-all. She was likely getting her fill of that from Lieutenant Lord. Okay, let's use the old access panel. You kneel down by the panel and attempt to find the gap between its edge and the surrounding wall. This is made a lot harder by the thick material of your suit. After a few attempts to find it, the tips of your gloves catch the recess. You work your digits in more until you find a catch that you can squeeze. The panel falls away from the wall, and you take hold of it, placing it to the side. Underneath is a long handle marked emergency use only. Alright, that's the access panel out of the way. Let's see the handle.
Good, now you're going to want to turn it anti-clockwise and keep going until the hatch is open.
Understood. Alright. Placing your left hand at the bottom of the handle and your right hand at the top, you apply as much force as you can to push it clockwise. Your initial heave barely moves it despite your efforts. Come on. You grip the handle again and place your entire body weight behind your effort to shift it. This time it moves more noticeably, but when you look at the airlock hatch, it doesn't appear to have opened at all. With another grunt, you push the lever, the full 90 degrees, allowing it to return to its neutral position. Although it still resists you're able to feel the ratchet mechanism beginning to move. You push the handle 90 degrees again before letting it rest. You adjust your grip and push the handle again.
Easy!
You complain through gritted teeth as you feel the mechanism slowly but surely moving a little bit each time. As you carry on this process of straining against the mechanism, you complete crank after crank. You hear the mechanism of the airlock groan and strain with each turn. Eventually something gives, and the mechanism and the airlock uncouple, releasing their locks, and the whole thing slides open. Okay. You can feel the sweat on your brow and curse that you'd put the suit on beforehand, preventing you from wiping it off. Okay, Chief, I'm heading into the airlock chamber. What's next?